the 16th edition of Meet the Metapreneur. Today, we are heading out to Brussels to meet Aléksa Mill. Aléksa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. I've been following you on LinkedIn, and I was sure that I would one day get an opportunity to have you on our show, especially because of your legal background. I know there are a lot of gray areas in this industry, but before we get to that, I'd like you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Yes, sure. Thank you. My name is Aléksa Mill, and I'm Managing Director at Veceo. Veceo is a DAO-focused nonprofit based in Brussels. We help DAOs, we support DAOs by providing them with a framework for compliance, legality, risk management, and prevention. We also provide them with an environment in which they can interact with traditional world service providers. So basically, we give decentralized projects access to traditional world service providers and an environment in which they can interact with them compliantly while maintaining a significant level of decentralization. That matters nowadays because generally the blockchain, like the regulatory environment around blockchain industry, around DeFi, DAOs, crypto, digital assets in general is basically non-existent. But in the past 6 months to a year, we've been seeing that there are many changes, and many countries are actually adopting the regulations that are in favor of digital assets. While of course, like there are some other countries that are still struggling to understand the basics, the fundamentals of DeFi, of blockchain in general. So DAOs are so far recognized in only 3 places in the whole world. So generally DAOs are facing many challenges when it comes to actually establishing themselves and having the ability to interact with the traditional world, which would further, of course, support their scalability, the growth, but also the protection of the investors and the project founders.
Great. Now these days, all the talk is about Web3, right? Companies are transitioning from Web2 to the Web3 space. And I think the biggest attraction about Web3 is the fact that it's a decentralized platform, right? So yeah. What's your opinion on why Web3 will succeed?
Well, to be honest, like I personally believe that the future is decentralized, because like Web3 is getting like more and more into everyday life, right? Like we keep hearing about Web3, about crypto, about digital assets. Everyone basically knows what like an NFT. Everyone have heard of NFTs. Like the perception and the understanding might not be the best, right? Because they usually see it like, a big picture, like, or GIF, right? Like, and it's like what is that actual thing? But the great move that happened is that actually people have heard about it, right? Before they knew about Bitcoin and thought like, oh no, that's a scam, like crypto, no, like that's internet money. Don't go there, don't play with it. However, more and more people nowadays are getting involved. More traditional, more financial institutions are getting involved. Mainstream media is also talking more about Web3, about DeFi, about crypto, digital assets in general. Metaverse, right? Like is also a great latest buzzword. So I think generally Web3 definitely has future. But the thing is that the issues that it might face is, of course, like the lack of regulations. The regulatory environment is generally not in the favor of Web3, and the lack of understanding of people in general, right? So like NFTs, right? Like, Apex, jokes aside, right? It just does not give the good perception of what we're doing here and what the space is about. And so I think like the education, the overall like general education, people, then better legislation, better legislative framework for Web3 are the things that actually can need to happen in order to support its further growth, because it's just crazy, right? Like we're in the hyper growth of industry of DAOs, right? So if you look back in 2016, right, you only had one DAO, the DAO, right? Like, and that in a matter of 3 weeks raised by only 11,000 investors, raised huge money. But nowadays you have around 5,000 DAOs, and the projects keep popping up basically every day. And you have more and more people involved in the industry and actually coming to the space to build, and which is fantastic. It's a fantastic change. However, how that can actually further proceed might be a bit under question mark and under some difficulties for the fact that people generally do not have like the actual proper basic understanding of the environment, the lack of legislation, and also the people that are actually writing those laws, that the ones that are actually holding the regulatory role, might not have also the best fundamental understanding of the industry.
Yeah, correct. As I was telling you before, we have this platform called onlywebinars.com, and we are on a mission, to educate as many people as we can about the industry and debunk some of the myths that exist in the industry, in terms of people think this is a place where you can make quick money and then exit. That's not true. You have to have a long-term perspective. You have to read the fine print, buyer beware kind of a place that you are getting into. So yeah, I think one has to use their common sense in terms of taking decisions like you would in any other industry. And the other thing I want to discuss with you today is about women empowerment. I noticed that you're strong on that. So I'm curious to know, what are you doing, in your daily life to perhaps make a large difference in the way women are not only part of this whole process, but they take leadership positions?
Yeah, so generally the problem with the female representation in blockchain industry as a whole, right? I mean, if we look at the larger scale, when we look at the tech industry, the female representation is a lot lower than the male. Generally, the tech industry is a male-dominated industry, and blockchain industry is, I think, even more, right? So according to some statistics, less than 26% of women are actually the investors, while only, for example, according to research from 2020, less than 2.3% were actually like the women-led startups that received funding, right? So very extremely huge gap between like the representation of men and women, and also like their involvement and how they're actually treated, how they're actually seen. The problem, why does that happen, is and generally, I think like the social education, the social perception, we still have like around the world and generally in the society. And like we're brought up differently. We come, of course, like from different traditions, from different cultures. And generally, somehow women get less opportunity to get involved in tech, to get involved in blockchain, to get the opportunity to actually build, right? And that is something that we actually hope to change, to influence. So since our focus is, of course, like the DAO governance, blockchain-based projects, governance, compliance, and legal. And what I've noticed when I was looking, for example, for the legal consultants, is out of 15 candidates, like 15 would be men, right? So I wouldn't get like one single female legal professional candidate that would be interested, for example, to work in Web3 space, or to generally, to generally show interest for this. So what we decided is actually to start a project which would target female legal professionals, where we would bring them, we would give them the space where they can learn about Web3 in general, like from the very basics to more complex things. And we would actually team them up with already established female professionals in Web3 industry. So we will do a series of education, webinar, and also creating a network in which women can interact and can work with each other. And we also hope that we would be able to that we would motivate some of them to actually come to the space and build. And the idea is to create also like a network for already existing female founders, around like less than 4.13% in the space, with the women from Web2, to put it that way, that would come and try to, like, you know, build their own career in the space. In addition to that, we also, our goal is to train legal professionals to be able to work in Web3 space, because regulations are coming, more and more of them. And the fact is that generally traditional world lawyers do not really have a good understanding of the environment of Web3, right? So when they just think blockchain and that's it, right? Nobody sees like blockchain specifically as a technology, right? Like, or like, you know, the only thing they know is crypto, right? Like then NFTs, well, they don't have like, you know, very deeper understanding of, for example, how community works, right? So in DeFi, in DAOs, communities are extremely important, and the way the DAOs are structured, how DAOs operate, what is the sentiment of the community, how developers work, like what is the actual power of community. And generally, we want, our goal is to educate legal professionals to be able to understand how DeFi community, how DAO communities work from the inside, so they're able to apply their traditional legal knowledge when the time comes. So
that's great. I applaud you on these initiatives, because you know, this is something very close to my heart as well. My last webinar was about closing the gender gap, and we came to two very interesting conclusions. One was that the rate of women getting into the industry is so dismal, so slow, that an IMF study said that at this rate, it will take 260 years for women to catch up with the men. So that's like, you know, just not acceptable. It's far too long a gap to bridge. So I think there has to be an accelerated change in the education, in the ways that people have their outreach programs. And funnily, you know, the irony of the whole situation is that wherever women were on the board of companies, they were producing a better dollars return than men-owned businesses. So women are outperforming men, but sadly not getting enough opportunities. And that is, you know, something that we have to get our head around to. And for me, I think on all our panels, including our networking groups, we have more women than men, and we keep it intentionally that way. And they are not there because of numbers, they are there because of what they bring to the table, the value that they add. So we are having a lot of exciting conversations, a lot of fireside chats. And I think these are exciting times, right, for us to be in this Web3 space. And like I say to people all the time, the best people I have met in my life have been in the last 6 months in the Web3 space, because these are open-hearted people. They believe in collaboration rather than competition, which is really the spirit of Web3. So Web3 is not technology, it is a mindset, right?
Absolutely.
So we all have to be embracing. So yeah, thanks, Aleksa. I mean, you've shared some lovely stories about what you are doing in your day job and in your life. And I look forward to working closely with you in the future. And yeah, so before I let you go, one last question that I ask all my speakers here is, what advice would you give to people in general, or maybe especially to women who are entering this space for the first time?
So what I would tell to anyone who wants to try, right? Like, just do it. Just do it. Like Google, YouTube, like those are your kind of best friends, right? Like you can get so much information there, right? LinkedIn is a perfect place also to connect with amazing people that have so much to offer, so much knowledge to share. I mean, of course, like people are on LinkedIn, right? Like when it comes to actually like to crypto people, they're not selfish with the knowledge they have and with the knowledge they want to share. And I think that anyone who wants to join, who wants to come to Web3, definitely should use that. And even though it gets super hard, right? Like, you had like wants to explode how much information there is, right? Like, how many things you cannot actually understand. Then you think you understood something, but then you see something else and you're like, no, I did not get that right the first time, right? So it's perfectly normal. And whoever is in this space, we all learn something new every day, because like there are so many things. Don't get discouraged by the fact that you don't know or don't understand a bunch of things. And when it comes to women specifically, what I would say is, like, I was on a panel that was actually discussing the female inclusion, and we had a question from the audience that the guy stood up and say, like, well, can you tell me what value does a woman bring to the table? So you bring all the value that you have, right? Like, and take your seat at the table, don't be shy, and generally do the best you can. And the knowledge and the skills you have is you, it's not your gender. And that's a very important thing to remember.
I agree with you 100%. I second that. And I encourage women to just jump in the fray. There's a lot of content out there. I read somewhere 10,000 articles have been published about the metaverse in the last 30 days.
Oh, wow.
So it's all there for us to Google.
Oh, wow.
And read up and go webinar binging, and then you'll be up to speed. So
absolutely.
Thank you. All the best to you. Wish you all the success, and stay in touch. So bye for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.